going to spend the day talking about evidence. We're going to ask three questions. I'll talk about this again in a minute. We're going to ask three questions. How do we build an evidence-based orientation for the state of New Jersey? What are we doing right now in the state of New Jersey that reflects this interest in building our practices at Rutgers University to help the state of New Jersey improve the evidence-based practices? We're going to hear from some speakers whom I'll introduce in a little bit, but after they've spoken, they will take questions. What I'd like you to do right now is write down, you'll find on your table some pencils and index cards. I'd like you to write down a question you would like to pose to an expert. If you say, gee, I have a chance to ask a question from an expert on evidence practice a known national expert on the practice of evidence in criminal justice, here's my question. Now's your time to ask it. I would like to ask each one of you to grab an index card and a pencil and write down the question you would like to pose to one of our speakers today. Throughout the day, we'll be posing questions from the audience, and that's how I'd like to ask it. So please take a minute just to write out a question. Again, my name is Todd. I'm Dean of the School of Criminal Justice. About 6 months ago, the School of Law School received a grant from the Attorney General's office to establish an organization that is shared by the two schools called the Evidence-Based Institute. The purpose of the Evidence-Based Institute is to assist operating agencies in strengthening the evidence base for their practices. That involves understanding evidence about what works and implementing those evidence-based practices, evaluating what we're now doing to try to make them more effective, bringing into line with the social science evidence the agenda of the criminal justice system in the state of New Jersey. We are today and tomorrow having 2 days in which we will think about the challenge of evidence for the state of New Jersey. And it's a challenge not just for the operating agencies in the state of New Jersey, but also for the State University of New Jersey, Rutgers University, to assist those agencies in strengthening the evidence base of their practices. So think of this next 2 days as both an exploration of the idea of evidence and its implications for the state of New Jersey and the justice systems of New Jersey, but also as a challenge to all of us, to the organizations represented here and the university as well, to bring into alignment the work we do more with what we now know works, and to build information about what works by studying our own practices more effectively. When we talked about this kickoff conference, we asked ourselves, what would be the best way to give ourselves a vision of what we think the possibilities are for the state of New Jersey? And today's two keynote speakers are people who will help us think about that, because they will talk about their own work and how that work has helped to shape the evidence foundations in the states they work in. Our first speaker is Steve Oss from the state of Washington, Washington Institute of Public Policy. We have, by the way, in each of your packets, more detailed bios of all of our speakers, so I won't go through all of that information. I'll tell you why we asked Steve to speak to us. In many respects, the world recognizes that we have reached a new era when evidence has become so much more important, both for framing the practices and for understanding budgets and for establishing criteria. And there's no place in the country where the relationship between the university and the evidence-based practices of the state policy apparatus are better reflected than in the Washington Institute of Public Policy. Steve Oss has developed a vision for how the university can be a part of agenda setting in the state that is admired nationwide. I was just talking to him. This is his second trip in 2 weeks to the East Coast. He's a person in great demand. We were lucky to get him and get time on his calendar to be able to talk to us about what they're doing there. So Steve Oss will be presenting to us both a vision for what's actually going on in the state of Washington, but also some way of thinking about what we might create here in the state of New Jersey. He will be, his remarks will be responded to by the Dean of the Law School, John Farmer. Again, John Farmer's bio is in the book, so I won't talk about, I won't give a detailed description, but I will say that John Farmer has been when I first took the job as dean, John Farmer's meetings with me were the first places for this idea of the way in which the School of Criminal Justice and the law school could come together to work with the state of New Jersey's criminal justice system, make the system more effective, and bring evidence practices. And this has been his dream for some time. So he will respond to Steve O's remarks, and then the questions that you wrote down, we will take some of those questions. It is my immense pleasure to introduce the Honorable Philip Kwon, First Assistant Attorney General for the state of New Jersey. Again, you have a bio talking about his extensive experience in law enforcement that leads to his appointment in this important post. And we've invited him here to talk a little bit about the Attorney General's interest in this work, and also to welcome you to the Institute's first public activity. So, Honorable Phil
Kwon. I apologize for being late. When I went to law school here, we were in that building down the street, and I've never had a chance to tour this campus. And this morning, as I went to the wrong building, I had a full tour of this campus. And it's nice. I would like to welcome you to what I think will be a great two-day conference to discuss best practices and evidence-based analysis of crime prevention and re-entry policy. At the Attorney General's office, we're happy to call the Rutgers School of Criminal Justice and my alma mater, Rutgers Newark Law School, partners not just for these 2 days, but the next 2 years, launching the evidence-based initiative. Funding the EBI is a priority for the Attorney General and our office because of the sea change that's occurring in how criminal justice policy is driven. I'm actually glad that I had the opportunity to listen to some of the comments here. It was very enlightening, and it's also terrifying at the same time. It makes us realize, or it made me realize anyway, that most of life now, we have to be able to understand data. We have to understand numbers, economics, and statistics. And if truth be told, many of us went to law school to get away from that. We didn't want to do math. We didn't want to do numbers. But in order to do this, to really understand these policies and whether they work or not, you really do have to dig into the data. Even in law enforcement, there's an understanding that you have to attack the root causes of criminality. And that requires a broader approach that incorporates understanding issues like schooling, elementary school, preschool, secondary school, housing, employment training, healthcare, mental health counseling, substance abuse treatment. As Dean Farmer has been, and then Attorney Dow has been, we've been in law enforcement for a long time. And I think there historically has been a natural tension among law enforcement to issues of prevention and reentry. But if you ask anybody in law enforcement, they will tell you, you cannot arrest your way out of a crime problem. You can't incarcerate your way out of a crime problem. You have to have a broader approach to these types of issues. Because there's that natural antagonism, because people in law enforcement think that if you look too much into not incarcerating people, not prosecuting people, looking at prevention, looking at reentry, somehow you are soft on crime. And that's just not true. There shouldn't be that natural tension, because really at the end of the day, when you look at it, it really is about maintaining and ensuring safety in the community, safety in the neighborhood. And we particularly are talking about safety, ensuring safety in some of the most vulnerable communities. I don't have a graph for you, but intuitively, it makes sense to me that if we can ensure some safety, we're not going to guarantee that you're going to have a great life. We're not going to guarantee that you're going to be successful. But we are increasing your chances of those opportunities if we can maintain and ensure safety for everybody. But recognizing that, we have to look at and ask ourselves, does it work? Does a program work? Do these initiatives work? So, we at the Attorney General's office, we fund a number of grants in these areas. We also incorporate requirements of our grantees that include comprehensive data collection, establishing clear performance benchmarks, and a requirement to take a short-term and long-term evaluation of these programs to gauge whether it's successful or whether they're not. If they're not, either change it or we can move on. But we have to understand what the economic impact of these are and whether they're actually working or not. In our view, especially at a time when resources are scarce, programs have to rise and fall on the basis of their ability to achieve positive results for the individuals they serve. So for the next 2 years, our office will work closely with Rutgers to catalog and study initiatives targeted at recidivism and crime prevention to shape policy going forward. We want to create a practitioner's training curriculum. We want to work with our state parole board and division of probation on ways to improve outcomes for individuals under their supervision and engage community leaders and participants statewide in meaningful dialogue about ways to improve public safety. This conference is a strong first step in our partnership, and while the next 2 days will introduce you to some of the leading thinkers in the criminal justice field, it is our hope at the Attorney General's office that you will take some of this information you learn here and really broaden it, branch it out to your particular areas, because that's what we have to do. That is our obligation, I think, in service to the public. So thank you very much, and enjoy the next 2 days.